Welcome to Germany Today. People, places, and living here in Germany. Coming up on this edition.
If there's no plane taking off, we try to get them to associate the area with an unpleasant experience by firing an alarm shot over their heads.
I was here as a little boy, and it's where I'd also like to grow old.
I'll fix it up a bit, put it in my garden, and in the evening we'll sit and enjoy a glass of wine.
Ulf Moos works at Cologne-Bonn Airport and plays a crucial role in ensuring airfield safety. His official title is bird controller. His task, to prevent birds getting in the way of planes. He has to keep his eyes peeled at all times. But for what exactly?
Birds that are large enough to pose a risk for airplanes. That means first and foremost geese, cormorants, cranes, and gray herons. We gauge the situation and then decide what to do. Primarily, we just chase them away. If there's no plane taking off, we try to get them to associate the area with an unpleasant experience by firing an alarm shot over their heads or getting dogs to chase them. Then they realize they're better off looking for a quieter spot.
As a bird hazard assessment officer, his main task is to prevent what are technically known as bird strikes. One or more birds colliding with a plane's engines or fuselage could be disastrous.
You can usually recognize a bird controller because they squint. They always have one eye on the ground and one eye looking up towards the sky so they don't miss anything.
So what's he going to do about this flock of swifts?
Ideally, we just chase them away, but they're not easily scared. They come from Cologne in huge flocks. Sometimes there are hundreds of them. Last week there were 2 collisions involving swifts, which are recorded in the statistics as bird strikes. It sounds worse than it is, though. It didn't cause any damage to the aircraft because they don't actually pose a serious risk. They're not dangerous, just annoying. We try to keep kestrels away, like that one up there, by letting the grass grow pretty tall because that makes it harder for the birds to spot prey. If the grass is 20 or 25 centimeters high, then the kestrels can't detect any mice.
Ulf Moos works through the winter too, but in the cold season he's not looking for birds, but rabbits. Birds of prey like rabbits, so the fewer the rabbits on the airfield, the fewer the birds. His assistant is a ferret. It frightens the rabbits out of their holes and straight into Ulf's nets.
This is the oldest hunting trick in the book. There's evidence to suggest that even the ancient Egyptians used ferrets to tackle rat and mice plagues. In the Middle Ages, ferrets would often be brought to the royal courts as gifts for the same reason. It's a traditional hunting technique and also one favored by poachers because they don't make any noise. This looks odd. It smells like fox. If we put the ferret down there, things could get ugly. We have to let foxes be foxes.
Or what might happen?
We could be lucky and the fox would get a shock and take off. But what's more likely is that he'd kill the ferret, and that's too much of a risk. It's not worth it.
The trouble is that there are usually several ways out of a rabbit hole. This time, the rabbit manages to escape. But by now, the birds are beginning to circulate.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Time to take action. Out comes Ulf's alarm gun. Go ahead, birds. Make his day.
Julian von Stackelberg lives in the small town of Gottsdorf near Luckenwalde. His housemate is Birgit Gensicke. Julian was a premature baby. Now 25, he has learning difficulties and an explosive temper. When he was younger, he didn't want to live with his parents, so he moved out and into a home for young people. But that didn't work out. Now, thanks to a project that brings together people with psychological problems and host families, he's living with Birgit here in the countryside in the state of Brandenburg.
We get on well, and we have a laugh. We only really see each other in the morning and in the evening. And it's working out well, isn't it?
We'd also get on if we saw more of each other.
Having a laugh is the main thing.
Birgit Gensicke is very open-minded. A year ago, she decided, pretty impulsively, to take in Julian. A teacher's aide by profession, her own children are now grown up. She knows the score.
Things sometimes get a little out of hand. He can be a bit belligerent with people and starts ranting about some situation he found it hard to cope with. Sometimes he also gets mad at me. But it never gets too bad. He just ends up stomping off and saying that he wants to be left alone. And that's fine with me. It's all about setting limits, I think.
Julian needs to know he can just retire to his own room and get over his bad mood in his own time. He'll write in his diary or spend some time on his hobbies.
I listen to music. I read. These are all my books. These are a couple of my favorites.
He's enjoying his independence, but he still sees his mother on a regular basis. They're very close.
This is me and my mother. Mother and son.
Mutter und Sohn. Hallo.
Hallo, Julian.
Alles klar?
Julian and Birgit have professional support. Once a week, they get a visit from psychologist Hannah Barrois, who works for the organization in charge of the assisted living project. She gives them advice and helps them resolve conflicts.
In
the beginning, it was important to establish routines, to see that Ms. Gensicke gave Julian a set of chores and lay down some ground rules without Julian getting upset.
Lots of problems do arise, and I have to think carefully about how I deal with them. So it's great to know there's someone I can call. She's always available, which is fantastic.
Julian von Stackelberg is enjoying his new life in the country. He can't imagine living anywhere else.
I was here as a little boy. And it's where I'd like to grow old. It's wonderful here.
The assisted living project is state-funded, and not only in Brandenburg, but all over Germany.
Here on the North Sea coast, high season is over. All that's left are these used beach chairs, looking somewhat worse for wear. They're about to go under the hammer at an auction, here in the resort of Harlesil. Potential buyers have come from all over Germany to secure their own little piece of summer. The bears have travelled 400 kilometers to be here.
These are very special beach chairs. They're steeped in North Sea air. Anyone can buy a new one. We want a second-hand one to remind us of all the lovely vacations we've had here.
We used to come here every year, but we haven't been for the last 6 years or so. But we spent many happy hours in beach chairs like these.
Organizer Gerold Kunerus has some last-minute advice for bidders.
This wood is still in good shape. Sometimes it's a bit weathered, so that's something to look out for. You also don't want them to wobble. And you don't want the canvas to be ripped. You don't find patterns like this anymore.
This is a vintage beach chair made over 40 years ago. It's the first to go once the auction gets underway.
So, 50 Euro. Wer sagt 50 Euro? Bitte? 50 Euro zum ersten.
Roland Bär from Bad Kreuznach is lucky. He's the only one to bid and he gets the chair for 50 euros.
Geht der gelb-blaue Strandkorb nach Wallhausen bei Bad Kreuznach in Rheinland-Pfalz. Herzlichen Glückwunsch. Hier müssen wir eigentlich
The next one to go is a Carolinchen. It's Harleseal's signature beach chair model.
Wer sagt 50 Euro?
A family from Hessen is very keen, and for 80 euros it's theirs.
We bought one called Carolinchen, the type you see all over the place here. We always wanted one for our vacation home.
All in all, 14 beach chairs have found new owners at the auction.
I'll fix it up a bit, put it in my garden, and in the evenings we'll sit and enjoy a glass of wine.
Having one's own private beach chair is certainly one way of bringing sunshine into one's life all year round.
And that's all for this edition of Germany Today. Until next time.